Is the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia turning its back on the United States and embracing China as its new global partner? In the world of international relations, alliances are never set in stone. What once seemed like an unbreakable partnership between Saudi Arabia and the United States is now being tested by the rise of China as a global superpower. Over the decades, the US and Saudi Arabia maintained a strategic bond built on energy, security, and mutual geopolitical interests. However, today the winds are shifting. From economic partnerships to military diplomacy, China is stepping into spaces the US once dominated. This shift isn't happening overnight, but the signs are undeniable. Saudi Arabia, known for its calculated foreign policies, is diversifying its alliances, and China is quickly becoming a preferred partner. But why is this happening? Is it the US retreating from the Middle East, or is it China's aggressive push to replace American influence in the region? Are we witnessing a historic pivot in global diplomacy? Let's break down the powerful reasons that are pushing Saudi Arabia closer to China, and what that means for the future of global power dynamics. The strategic energy realignment. Energy has long been the core of the Saudi-US relationship. However, the dynamics are now evolving. China is currently the largest importer of oil globally, and Saudi Arabia remains one of the top oil exporters. This makes their relationship fundamentally aligned in terms of energy security and trade. In contrast, the United States is moving toward energy independence and alternative sources, reducing its need for Saudi oil. This new energy landscape is leading Saudi Arabia to prioritize customers who can guarantee long-term demand, like China. Recent oil trade agreements between the two nations, some even in non-dollar currencies, are symbolic of this shift. These aren't just business transactions, they are political statements. Saudi Arabia is signaling that its economic future is increasingly intertwined with the East, not the West. The decline of US influence in the Middle East. America's long-standing dominance in the Middle East is under pressure. The US withdrawal from key military bases, coupled with shifting focus toward the Indo-Pacific and internal politics, has left a vacuum. China is more than willing to fill that gap. Saudi Arabia no longer sees the US as the sole guarantor of its security. The hesitation of the US to respond decisively during regional conflicts, especially attacks on Saudi oil facilities, has raised doubts in Riyadh about American reliability. In response, the kingdom is expanding its security dialogues, including with China, to ensure strategic balance. The symbolism is clear: Saudi Arabia is exploring alternatives in a multipolar world. China's infrastructure diplomacy. Saudi Arabia's ambitious Vision 2030 plan aims to transform the kingdom from an oil-dependent economy to a diversified global hub. And China is offering exactly what Saudi Arabia needs to make this transformation real: investment in infrastructure, technology, and logistics. China's Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, aligns with Saudi Arabia's infrastructure goals, especially in the development of futuristic cities like NEOM. Unlike Western countries that often attach political or human rights conditions to investments, China offers financial support with minimal political interference. This appeals to the Saudi leadership, who prefer partnerships based on mutual interests without ideological friction. Currency and economic independence. One of the boldest signals that Saudi Arabia may be pivoting from the US to China is its willingness to conduct oil trades in Chinese yuan. This move challenges the decades-old petrodollar system, which has anchored global oil trade in US dollars. If expanded, this shift could undermine the dollar's dominance in global finance. For Saudi Arabia, this is not just about currency, it's about economic sovereignty. Trading in yuan provides the kingdom with greater flexibility and deeper ties to Asian markets. It also reduces dependence on the US financial system, allowing Saudi Arabia to bypass sanctions and geopolitical constraints more effectively. Military partnerships and arms diversification. Traditionally, Saudi Arabia has relied heavily on the US for its military hardware and defense technology. But in recent years, the kingdom has started exploring alternative suppliers, including China. Chinese military drones, missile systems, and surveillance technology are being quietly introduced into the Saudi defense ecosystem. This diversification is both symbolic and strategic. Saudi Arabia is signaling that it no longer wants to be reliant on a single partner for its security. By purchasing weapons from China, the kingdom not only strengthens its defense but also creates leverage in future dealings with the US. It's a calculated move to maintain autonomy in an increasingly multipolar world. Shared authoritarian values. While the US often pushes its partners on human rights and democratic reforms, China takes a different approach. Beijing's foreign policy is rooted in non-interference and mutual respect for sovereignty, an approach that resonates with Saudi Arabia's ruling elite. Both countries operate under systems where the government holds significant centralized power. This shared understanding of governance, free from Western liberal constraints, creates a comfortable space for collaboration. In many ways, China and Saudi Arabia understand each other's priorities better than the US understands either of them. Media, education, and cultural exchanges. The relationship between Saudi Arabia and China isn't just about politics and economics. It's expanding into culture, media, and education. Chinese language courses are being introduced in Saudi schools, while Saudi universities are establishing partnerships with Chinese institutions. State-run media in both countries frequently portray each other in a positive light. These cultural connections serve to deepen trust and public support, laying the foundation for a more long-term and sustainable relationship. It's no longer just about oil and money, it's about people-to-people connections and mutual influence. Technology and digital infrastructure. Saudi Arabia is racing toward a high-tech future. Whether it's building smart cities or developing cybersecurity systems, the kingdom is investing heavily in digital transformation. And China, with its cutting-edge technology and global reach, is proving to be an ideal partner. Chinese companies are already involved in building 5G infrastructure and smart surveillance systems in the kingdom. While the US warns against such collaboration citing security risks, Saudi Arabia is prioritizing functionality and innovation. This technological partnership is another brick in the growing wall between Saudi Arabia and the West. The rise of multipolar diplomacy. Saudi Arabia is no longer willing to play a one-sided game. The kingdom is engaging with multiple powers, China, Russia, India, and the European Union, to create a diversified foreign policy. This multipolar approach reduces its vulnerability and gives it greater leverage on the global stage. China, in particular, is becoming a cornerstone of this new strategy. The two nations coordinate on trade, energy, and geopolitical issues while avoiding the ideological battles that plague Saudi-US relations. This balanced diplomacy allows Saudi Arabia to protect its interests in a world where power is no longer unipolar. Symbolism and political realignment. Diplomatic visits, joint summits, and public declarations are powerful symbols in geopolitics. Saudi Arabia hosting high-profile Chinese delegations and signing long-term agreements sends a clear message: the kingdom is looking east. These actions aren't meant to immediately sever ties with the US, but they serve as a warning. If Washington does not adjust its approach, it risks losing one of its most influential allies in the region. Saudi Arabia's tilt toward China is both a reflection of current realities and a preview of future realignments. So, is Saudi Arabia really ditching the United States for China? The answer lies not in dramatic declarations but in the quiet, deliberate shifts happening across multiple fronts: energy, defense, diplomacy, and beyond. This is not a sudden divorce but a strategic evolution. Saudi Arabia is not abandoning the US, but it is making sure it has other options, and China is stepping in as a powerful alternative. This realignment marks a new era in global politics where old alliances are being questioned, and new ones are being forged. For the United States, this is a wake-up call. For China, it's a diplomatic victory. And for Saudi Arabia, it's a declaration of independence from historical dependence. The world is changing, and the kingdom is making sure it's not left behind. If you found this breakdown insightful, make sure to subscribe to our channel at Infosphere27 and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update on global shifts like this. What do you think about Saudi Arabia's pivot toward China? Is it a smart move or a risky gamble? Let us know in the comments below.